Hi, Jim Ziegler, the Alpha Dog. Today I've got a really great session. It's my 50 best F&I closes, the best 50 F&I closes throughout my career. Now you got to remember, I started out as a top salesman in several dealerships. I was always the top salesman in any dealership I worked for. Then I became an F&I manager. I set records. I became an F&I director of multiple stores, high volume stores, and I was a platform manager. I have performed F&I, actually worked with real customers in real F&I offices and real dealerships in 49 states, more than 1,000 showrooms over the last 46 years. So in other words, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and I've got to share with you today some of my 50 best F&I closes. Closes that work, things that you can say to a consumer that'll close the deal. Okay, first of all, let's discuss word tracks. The words you say are your toolbox. Now, I use a thing we call semantics. Now, you've probably heard of semantics. Semantics is using alternative words that say the same thing, are more psychologically friendly, and are received better by the customer. In other words, I never say buy a car, I say own a car. I never sell a customer a service contract. I enroll the customer in a parts and labor program. So semantics, word tracks are very important. The words you say are your toolbox. You say the right words in the right order with the right facial expression, the right body language, you will sell finance. Okay, here's the first one. When you are presenting a menu, a lot of people present the menu when the customer walks in, say it's a paper menu. Now, I know we're using a lot of different technology menus, dock pads, I mean, all sorts of things today. But pretend we're using a paper menu or any other type of menu. When that customer walks in the F&I office for the first time, most non-professional F&I managers immediately start presenting the menu. The menu is not the main reason you're here. Do some other documents first. Do some other mandatory duties before you get into the menu itself. Mr. Customer, this is an odometer statement. It says that we haven't altered the mileage on the car. We don't know anybody that has. I'll need your authorization here. Mr. Customer, this is another odometer statement. It says that you haven't altered the odometer, the mileage on your car, and you don't know anybody that has. Now, Martha, you didn't get up under the dash and roll back your odometer with a drill motor, did you? No, okay. Old style car. Okay. So anyway, when you are presenting the menu, start out with some other documents first. This is an odometer statement. This is another odometer statement. Now here comes the menu. Watch this. Mr. Customer, this document is a mandatory disclosure of your financial options as required by the Federal Trade Commission. This document is a mandatory disclosure. Now, whether it's on a dock pad, whether it's paper, however you are presenting the menu, whatever technology you're using, presenting it on a screen, whatever. Listen to my word track. This document is a mandatory disclosure of your financial options as required by the Federal Trade Commission. That statement is 100% accurate and true. But all of a sudden, it adds some gravity to the importance of the menu. This document is a mandatory disclosure. Mandatory means you got to do it. This is a mandatory disclosure of your financial options as required by the Federal Trade Commission. Strong, strong introduction to the menu. Now, Mr. Customer, are these the terms as you understand them? When I start out presenting the figures that they have agreed to buy the car, are these the terms as you understand them? Now, here is something that legally you must say. You must say the next line. Mr. Customer, let me assure you, you can buy the car for that. I'm going to present a base payment at a base interest rate, exactly the way they bought the car. I'm not going to pack the payment with a service contract or gap protection or anything that they didn't agree to buy. This is a raw payment, just rate and payment the way the sales management presented it to them. And you have to tell the customer, Mr. Customer, let me assure you, you can buy the car for that. That statement must be made every single time. Are these the terms as you understand them? Now, Mr. Customer, this is the platinum package. Now, I call my packages the silver package, the gold package, and the platinum package, and the budget package. I name the packages on the menu. Whether it's a 2-column menu or a 4-column menu or a 3-column menu with a 4th column for lease. However I present the menu. Gasoline is even sold in platinum, gold, and silver. I mean, come on. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do that. There is no law against calling it the platinum package. It mirrors the Platinum American Express card in a customer's mind. This is our most popular package. It includes products and services that most customers prefer. Now, notice I didn't say most customers buy the platinum package. I said this is the one most people prefer. Mr. Customer, this is our platinum package. It's the ultimate protection of your financial investment. This is our most popular package. It includes products and services that most people prefer. Notice I didn't say they buy it. This is our most popular package. But on the other hand, this is the economy package. This is the budget package. It's the minimum protection package we'd ever recommend for anyone. Now, the platinum package I presented previously on the menu, once again, I don't care if it's a 2-column menu, a 4-column menu, or whether you're sliding things across a DocuPad. It doesn't matter. However you do it, that was the platinum package. Everything we sell is in the platinum package. Generally, in most dealerships, that's going to be the service contract first, gap protection, tire and wheel, key replacement, whatever you are selling in the finance office is going to be in the platinum package. Now, the economy package, and by the way, let's back up to the platinum package a second. On the platinum package, I have my ultimate service contract. Say it was 7 years, 100,000 miles. Total protection, everything we can put on a service contract, the ultimate protection that my service contract company provides. In the economy package, I have dropped down one level of coverage. If that was the ultimate coverage, this is the one level down less than ultimate coverage. And the reason I'm doing that, it gives me an upsell if they take the economy package. Now, Mr. Customer, the economy package only includes your parts and labor agreement, and that is a 5-year, 60, and it covers the gap protection. Now, Mr. Customer, for an additional $15 a month, I can upgrade that to the ultimate parts and labor agreement, 7 years, 100,000 miles. So I have dropped the coverage on the economy package. And once again, I'm offering the customer an upgrade, $15 a month or whatever it is, to go to the ultimate service contract. So the word tracking I use, the platinum package, the gold package, the economy package, the budget package. Nobody wants to be the economy people or the budget people. People, there is a psychology there. Of course there is. We are selling. Selling is psychology. So anyway, Mr. Customer, that's the ultimate service contract. Parts, and I call it a parts and labor agreement. I don't like to call it a service contract, and I certainly don't call it a warranty. It is actually technically illegal to call a service contract a warranty. It is not a warranty. The Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act clearly states that if you call it a warranty, it must be given to everybody free of charge and provided by the manufacturer. Well, let's face it, warranties that we sell are not warranties, they're service contracts. I prefer to call it the parts and labor agreement. That more accurately describes what it does, and it gives the customer a better feeling about it. Covers parts and labor. Well, Mr. Ziegler, I don't want to buy any of those items. Don't even bother to show me those things. I know what you sell in the finance office. I don't want any of that. How many times have we heard that? When a customer says that to you, let them get the no off their chest. Don't fight the no. When a customer says no, no problem. No problem, Mr. Customer. As I mentioned previously, all of these protection options and products are optional. As I mentioned previously, all of these protection items are optional. My only job now is to be sure you fully understand them before we sign off on waivers, releases, and hold harmless agreements, and you agree to self-insure on these coverages. Memorize that, learn that. That is one of the most powerful statements I ever invented to sell finance. Now remember, you don't need to lie, cheat, sneak, deceive, or misrepresent to sell finance. Everything we do can be done honorably, honestly, with integrity, but we are selling and we are using sales psychology to make the customer feel better about their purchases. There's nothing wrong with appealing to the customer's inner child. So watch what I say here. I don't want any of that. No problem. No problem. That's not a big deal. Because when you sell on the menu, when you are presenting a menu to a customer, you are not selling anything. You are only identifying what they would buy anyway. Understand that. Don't sell on the menu. I have to present an attitude of what I call detached indifference. I don't care if you buy any of this. My only job is to be sure you understand these benefits. This is a mandatory disclosure required by the Federal Trade Commission. This is a mandatory disclosure. I have to disclose to you all of your financial options. So when I said to when I started with the menu, I said to the consumer, this is a mandatory disclosure required by the Federal Trade Commission. Sit up, pay attention. I don't want any of that. No problem. My only job now is to be sure you understand these options. All of these things are completely optional. You're not required to buy any of them. My only job is to be sure you fully understand them before we sign off on waivers, releases, and hold harmless agreements. Get that in your word track and have sign-offs on things they don't buy. Waivers, releases, and hold harmless agreements. Get that in your word tracking. No problem, sir. As I mentioned previously, all of these protection products are optional. Optional. My only job is to be sure you fully understand them. It's a mandatory disclosure required by the Federal Trade Commission. Mr. Customer, you're going to be signing waivers, releases, and hold harmless agreements on those items that you don't buy, and you agree to self-insure. Did you hear that word track, self-insure? Of all the things I ever invented, the words self-insure are the strongest closing words for any products. Consumers, wait a minute, I'm self-insuring? Absolutely, sir. The average repair on a service contract parts and labor agreement today is in excess of $850. And you are self-insuring for that. The average engine is going to cost at least $5,000 if you had an engine replacement. You are self-insuring completely during and beyond the. So anyway, get that word track, no problem. I'm not going to fight the no. You don't want to buy this stuff, detached indifference. My only job now is to sign waivers, releases, and hold harmless agreements on those items that you have turned down and agreed to self-insure on that coverage. No problem. Don't fight the no. Mr. Customer, if I can make all this fit comfortably and affordably within your budget, which of these packages best suits your needs? Now, understand, I don't like to show the customer the payments at the bottom of the columns. Not now. I mean, there's no law that says you have to do that. Matter of fact, there's no law that says you have to use a menu. So if I'm using a menu, why am I showing payments before they see the benefits of the packages? This is our Platinum package. It's the one most customers prefer. It's the best coverage we offer. It includes a parts and labor agreement, 7 years, 100,000 miles. It includes gap protection. It includes key replacement. It includes tire and wheel protection, whatever you have in that package. This is our Gold package. It's a little less coverage. It still includes this, and this. Now, Mr. Customer, this is our Budget Economy package. It's the least protection we would ever recommend for anybody. Mr. Customer, if I could make all of this fit comfortably and affordably within your budget, which of these packages would best suit your needs? So you like the Platinum package. Would you like to see some payment options that go with that package? Oh, you like the Gold package. Would you like to see some payment options that go with that package? If you will adapt and adopt what I just told you and start using that type of presentation without the payments out front, you will sell a lot more finance if they say they like the package and then you present the payments. So understand, if I can make all of this fit comfortably and affordably within your budget, which of these packages would best suit your needs? Now, Mr. Customer, the sales manager made a note that you've agreed to 60 payments of $629.86 a month at 4.25 APR beginning on the 15th of October. Is that a good time of the month for your first payment? You must disclose and be sure that they understand. Are these the terms as you understand them? The sales manager made a note to me that you've agreed to 60 payments of $629.86 a month at 4.25 APR beginning on October 15th. Is that a good time of the month for your first payment? Are these the terms as you understand them? Great. Now, understand, Mr. Customer, you can buy the car for that. I have just done all my legal obligation. That disclosure I just did must be done. And if I ever went to court and a lawyer from the other side said, "How do you know you did that?" Because I do it the same way every time. If you ever go to court, your defense is always, "I do it the same way every time. I say the same thing every time." That is your legal defense if ever you had to go to court to defend a deal you did. How do you know you did that? Because I do it the same way every time without exception. That's your answer. So, Mr. Customer, the sales manager made a note. You've agreed to buy the car or agreed to own the car. Listen to me. You've agreed to own the car for 60 payments of $629.86 a month at 4.25% APR beginning 15th. Is that a good time of the month for your first payment? Always close on the payment date, never on the payment amount, or never on the sale price. The last thing I ask them, is that a good time of the month for your first payment? Beginning on October 15th, is that a good time of month for your first payment? always close on the payment date, never on the payment amount. And the customer says, well, that interest rate's rather high. When the customer says the interest rate is high, listen to this close. Yes, it is. You notice I just said, yes, it is. That interest rate's rather high. Yes, it is. They didn't say they weren't going to take it. Don't start scrambling for a lower rate. Don't answer questions that people didn't ask. They didn't say they weren't going to take it. They just made a comment that the rate was high. And I've had people back in the day when interest across the counter was 18%. That interest rate's high. Yes, it is. And the consumer said, well, I guess it's not as high as my credit card. And they signed it. Wait until they say no before you start scrambling to change it, a rate or a payment. That payment's rather high. Yes, it is. Let's see what they say next. Don't answer a question they didn't ask. If they didn't ask it, don't answer it. Don't anticipate what they must mean by that. That's one of the biggest failings I see in most finance managers. You're anticipating what they must mean, what they must be thinking. You start, and by the way, never change a rate or a payment without consulting a book, a physical book. Because when the customer says that rate's too high, I'm not going to take this deal. I see managers all the time start scrambling and hitting the keyboard. Well, how about this? Well, now, how about this? Well, what if I did this? And all of a sudden, you are changing the rate on your keyboard, and they realize you could have done that all the time. You could have done that all along. And they distrust you. Well, Mr. Customer, your rate is 8.85. Oh, that's too high. I'm not paying 8.8 APR. I'm not doing it, Mr. Ziegler. Okay, well, let me see, Mr. Customer. I've got my book here. Let me try another lender. Maybe I start consulting a book. Mr. Customer, I have a program let me see here. I can do 6.25 APR on the program I just selected. Never change a rate without consulting a book to give the customer confidence that you didn't just have complete control over the rate the entire time. So that interest rate's rather high. Yes, it is. Wait and see what they say next. Now, here it comes. Parts and labor agreement. I don't call a service contract a warranty. That is against the law, technically. It's not a warranty. It's not provided by the manufacturer and given free to everybody. To be called a warranty, it's got to be provided by the manufacturer and given free to everyone. It's a service contract. It's a parts and labor agreement is my preference, because that's what Best Buy and all the retailers are calling their service contracts, parts and labor agreements. So I want to mirror what the customer is familiar with. It's a parts and labor agreement. Mr. Customer, this is our gold package. It includes enrollment in the 7-year, 100,000-mile parts and labor agreement. Enrollment, I listen to this word, tracking. I've done a lot of business in Tampa, St. Pete, Central Florida, South Florida, where they've got a lot of senior citizen clientele. And Mr. Customer, this package includes enrollment in our 7-year, 100,000-mile parts and labor program. People would rather be enrolled in a program than sold a contract. Words you say are your toolbox. So anyway, parts and labor agreement more accurately describes what it is, what it does, and it's something people are familiar with hearing from retailers calling their service contracts parts and labor agreements. It's too much money. I don't want to pay. How much is that service contract? Well, Mr. Customer, is part of this package at $41 a month. First of all, I'm going to quote it as a monthly amount that is in the package they selected. It's $41 a month, sir, as part of this package. I'm not paying $41 a month. How much is it all totaled? Well, Mr. Customer, it's $2,400. $2,400. I'm not paying $2,400. It says $2,400 right here in the contract. Well, Mr. Customer, that figure on the contract, that $2,400 you're looking at, is a fictitious figure as far as you're concerned. The $2,400 you're looking at on the contract is a fictitious figure as far as you are concerned. Because with a parts and labor program in all 50 states, any unearned part of that premium is refundable to the consumer based on miles or term, whichever the greatest percentage of has elapsed. So in other words, the service contract, the parts and labor agreement, if you cancel it or you pay the car off early, that is any unearned part of that is refunded to you pro rata, not on the rule of 78, where you pay a lot in the beginning and a little bit at the end. No, a service contract, you pay for it as it is used. Understand that. All 50 states, several states like Florida, it's considered an insurance product, still and all, refunded pro rata based on miles or term, whichever the greatest percentage of has elapsed. Mr. Customer, any unearned part of that premium is refunded to you or the bank, taken out of off of your payoff. You only pay for exactly what you use as you use it. The only reason that I have put a 7-year, 100,000-mile parts and labor agreement on this vehicle, knowing that you trade your cars or sell them every 3 years and you'll never pay the entire amount for the service contract. You trade or sell your cars every 3rd year, so I know you're not going to use the entire miles and term of this parts and labor agreement. But it does make your car more valuable when you sell it to the next owner. You know, it makes your car more valuable when you sell it to the next owner because it's transferable. Or any unearned part of that's refunded to you or taken off your payoff, you'll never pay it. So the amount you're seeing on the contract is a fictitious figure, and it only applies if you kept the car for the full 7 years or the full 100,000 miles, which you generally don't. You'll only pay for exactly what you use as you use it. Well, Mr. Ziegler, I had a parts and labor agreement on my last car and I never used it. Well, Mr. Customer, have you made provision to take care of your family in the event of your untimely death? Well, yeah, I've got life insurance. Okay, Mr. Customer, you have life insurance. Did you have the life insurance last year? Well, yeah. Are you pissed off you didn't die? No. You had the life insurance and you didn't die and you didn't get to collect on it. Now you're angry. No. In other words, Mr. Customer, you buy life insurance in the event that you might die. You buy a parts and labor agreement in the event that you might have a mechanical breakdown, that you might have a part fail, or worse yet, a transmission or engine fail. Mr. Customer, you had one in your last car and you never used it. Does your spouse have car insurance? Does your wife or husband have car insurance on their car? Collision, comprehensive, yeah. Are you had that insurance and you didn't have an accident last year? Are you pissed off that your wife didn't have a head-on collision? No. You're grateful that she didn't have a head-on collision, or your husband didn't have a head-on collision. No, you didn't buy the car insurance hoping you have a wreck. You buy it to protect you in the event that you might have a wreck. Now, honestly, car insurance is 3 times to 10 times more expensive than the parts and labor agreement, and the parts and labor agreement has 3 times greater possibility of making a claim. You've got 3 times the possibility of making a claim on your parts and labor agreement But your car insurance, depending on your age and your driving habits, costs 3 to 10 times more. It's a great value, Mr. Customer. So does your spouse have car insurance? You're not upset that he didn't have a wreck. A parts and labor agreement is something you buy in the event that you might have a claim. Now, women in general, now you can't generalize and be sexist about a female customer, but generalities, women distrust service facilities for the most part. When I'm selling a lady, a woman, a service contract, a parts and labor agreement, I want to go right to things that are of interest to most women. And what I'm going to say is, when you've got a parts and labor agreement, you never negotiate the price of repairs. You don't have to worry about, are they overcharging you? Are they putting something over on you? Because the service contract company negotiates the price of repairs in your behalf. That's something that's completely off of your table. We do not allow the repair facility to use counterfeit parts. Now, understand, there's a lot of counterfeit parts out there. Our provider of our parts and labor agreement will never allow counterfeit parts to be used on your car. Now bear in mind, rebuilt parts are sometimes authorized by service contract companies, rebuilt alternators, things like that. So don't say new parts, because genuine factory authorized replacement parts is the words I use. Factory authorized replacement parts. No counterfeit parts, only factory authorized replacement parts. You see what I said there? And by the way, that is also an independent service contract company. They adhere to the same rules. No unqualified labor working on your car. Think about that for a second. We only pay for certified technicians to work on your car. You don't have to worry about some unqualified person working on your car, Mrs. Customer. And no unnecessary repair. Sometimes they try to stack repairs on you that your car really didn't need and overcharge you. You don't have to worry about that. We negotiate the price of repairs and what repairs are done and what repairs are necessary. And with the parts and labor program, Mrs. Customer, we have nationwide coverage. Our parts and labor agreement covers any breakdown in the U.S. or Canada. You drive down to Mexico, you're on your own. But U.S. and Canada, our parts and labor agreement covers it. And we have nationwide payment. We will pay for that repair. And depending on what parts and labor agreement you purchased, rental car while your car is being repaired, trip interruption, whatever we offer. So anyway, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, Mrs. Customer, these are benefits that are of particular interest to female customers. Okay, the Federal Buyer's Guide. This is a close that I invented years ago that is absolutely phenomenal, and most F&I managers just get them to sign it and you move on. You don't even think about the power of this form. The Federal Buyer's Guide, the as-is sticker in the back window of the used car, the customer must sign it. But more than sign it, I use it as a selling tool, a closing tool. Watch what I do with the Federal Buyer's Guide. I want the sales representative to bring me the original buyer's guide that was actually in the car they were driving or buying. Okay, I've got the buyer's guide. Now, by the way, this only works if the customer is physically sitting in your office. Let's face it. We're doing a lot of Zoom presentations, a lot of in-home deliveries. I mean, I'm presenting it as if the customer is sitting in front of me, which is going to be a good portion of the time. So anyway, I've got the Federal Buyer's Guide that the salesperson brought it to me. Mr. Customer, this document is another mandatory disclosure required by the Federal Trade Commission. This document is another mandatory disclosure required by the Federal Trade Commission. Now, Mr. Customer, depending on what the dealer offers, Mr. Customer, as it says here, we have a 50-50 warranty. This car is sold as is, except for a 50-50 warranty on repairs in the first 60 days or whatever we offered. And then notice there is a line on the buyer's guide. Study the buyer's guide. Right below the as-is disclosure, it says, a service contract is available on this vehicle at an additional charge. Uh-oh. A service contract is available. This is a form that the federal government printed. I didn't print this form up. I didn't make up the federal buyer's guide. The federal government made this form. And it says a service contract is available at an additional charge. It says it right on the front of the as-is sticker. Why are we using that to sell? Mr. Customer, you notice it says here that a service contract is available in this vehicle at an additional charge. Mr. Customer, I've checked, yes, a service contract is available. Would you initial that I disclose that to you? I get the customer to initial the line on the front of the buyer's guide that says they can buy a service contract. Would you give me your initials here that I did disclose that to you? Okay, they put their initials on it. Would you put your initials here that I did disclose that to you? Very important. Ma'am, sir, husband, wife, both initials. Would you initial this that I did disclose that to you? And then I turn over the buyer's guide. Have you ever looked at the back of a federal buyer's guide? It's phenomenal. First of all, at the very bottom of the buyer's guide on the back, have a meeting, take a look at the buyer's guide, study it, tell all your other F&I managers in your organization about this close. At the bottom, it says important. The information of this on this form becomes part of any agreement to buy this vehicle. It is on every federal buyer's guide. That language was printed there by the federal government, not by my dealership. Mr. Customer, important. It says important. Notice this is the biggest text on the back of the buyer's guide. The government wanted you to see this. The information on this form becomes part of any agreement to buy this vehicle. Mr. Customer, I'm obligated to tell you that this document becomes part of your buyer's guide, your bill of sale to buy this car. This is part of your agreement to buy this car. This becomes part of your sales documents. This becomes part of the agreement. The information on this form becomes part of any agreement to buy this vehicle. That was put there by the federal government. And if you notice, there are more than 100 items listed on the back of this form that commonly fail on pre-owned vehicles. There's a whole list of things that says these are things that commonly fail on pre-owned vehicles. It's right on the back of the buyer's guide. Mr. Customer, the federal government wants you to know that because part of your sales contract, that there are more than 100 items that commonly fail on pre-owned vehicles. By your signature affixed, you're agreeing to self-insure on these items should you not purchase the service contract. Did you hear what I just said? With your signature affixed to this document, mandatory disclosure, you are saying that you are self-insuring on these items should you not purchase the service contract. 100 items that commonly fail on previously owned automobiles. This document becomes part of your sales contract. You're agreeing to self-insure if you don't buy a service contract. I'm telling you this, the Federal Buyer's Guide has sold more service contracts on pre-owned vehicles with people that were hesitant. Once they realized, hey, there's 100 items that commonly fail on pre-owned vehicles. This is provided by the federal government. Holy cow. A mandatory disclosure required by the Federal Trade Commission. Mr. Ziegler I trade my cars frequently. I never keep one long enough to run out of warranty. Well, Mr. Customer, one thing you need to know is that it makes your car more valuable. If you've got a transferable service contract, parts and labor agreement, your car will be more valuable if you sell it to the next owner if it has a transferable service contract. And there are several things on the service contract, the parts and labor agreement, that are not covered by the factory warranty, even during the factory warranty period. Oh, like what? Well, we all know about rental car, trip interruption, some of the perks on a service contract that are not covered by factory warranty, but are covered by service contracts. You know what the one you're selling covers, but whatever you're selling, we got trip interruption, we got basically rental car replacement. We got several things that my service contract offers that are not covered by the factory warranty during the factory warranty period. And most factory warranties, all of them that I have seen, do not cover wear and tear. Most service contracts do cover wear and tear, even during the factory warranty period. The majority of manufacturers do not cover wear and tear. Now, before you tell a customer this, be sure the service contract you are selling does cover wear and tear. And by the way, most manufacturer service contracts do cover wear and tear. So anyway, wear and tear, Mr. Customer, alternators don't break, they wear out. McPherson strut suspension doesn't break, it wears out. There are wear items that if you have unusual wear, that you could collect substantial amounts on the parts and labor agreement if they fail due to wear and tear that is not covered under the factory warranty. And another thing that is not covered under the factory warranty is consequential damage. Most service contracts do cover consequential damage. Now, what you have to do is read the service contract you are selling and be sure that it covers consequential damage. Be sure that it covers wear and tear before you tell a consumer that. But most of them do. So be sure the one you're selling does before you say this. It covers consequential damage. Mr. Customer, consequential damage is damage to a covered part by the failure, it's damage to a non-covered part caused by failure of a covered part. Okay, let me give you an example. Let's pretend that your brake calipers are defective. Now, ABS brakes, they will release and apply ABS brakes more times than a hummingbird's wings move. I'm telling you, ABS brake, let's pretend we have a stress crack in the caliper of the ABS brakes. Now, manufacturer warranties only cover, get this wording, manufacturer warranties only cover defects in materials and workmanship. That's all manufacturer warranty. Somebody took me on one time. Well, Honda, no. Honda covers wear and tear. No, they don't. Honda covers consequential damage. No, they don't. All manufacturer warranties, all of them, defects in materials and workmanship. Okay, the ABS calipers are moving at 600 times a second or whatever fast ass speed they're moving at. Okay, so the calipers are moving at incredible speed. There's a stress crack. That's a defect in material and workmanship, and the caliper disintegrates. Okay, that's covered under factory warranty. But when the caliper disintegrated, it ruined the brake pads and scored the rotors. That is not covered under factory warranty. That is consequential damage. That's damage caused to a non-covered part by a covered part. Now, by the way, between you and me, the factory would be embarrassed and they would fix that. But it's not something they're obligated to do. Everybody see the difference. So anyway, That being the case, the parts and labor agreement would replace the rotor or return the rotor or whatever was required, and it would replace the brake pads. So that's consequential damage, damage to a non-covered part caused by failure of a covered part. Something you really need to know. When you have a service contract and you trade frequently, there are things covered under the parts and labor agreement that are not covered under the factory warranty. Well, Mr. Ziegler, this is a Honda. I mean, Mr. Ziegler, this is a high quality car. Your salesman just stood out there on the parking lot. That woman I bought the car from, she just told me that this car could take a direct ground zero nuclear hit. Now you're telling me my Honda's going to break. Well, Mr. Customer, your Honda is 15,000 high-tech component parts. Plastic, rubber, glass, space-age materials. Welded, riveted, stapled, glued together by human beings. Some of these parts move in excess of 10,000 RPMs, a 3,000th of an inch of clearance, 1,000th of an inch of lubrication, rubbing and abrading against each other, creating high levels of heat. Let me say that to you again. Mr. Customer, your new Honda Accord is 15,000 high-tech component parts. Plastic, rubber, glass, space-age materials, welded, stapled, riveted, glued, fused together by human beings and robots. Some of these parts are moving at speeds in excess of 10,000 RPMs with less than 3,000th of an inch of clearance, 1,000th of an inch of lubrication, rubbing and abrading against each other, creating high levels of heat. Mr. Customer, if we built this car 98% perfect, that would mean 300 parts would fail. If this car was 99.9% perfect, 15 parts would fail. So, Mr. Customer, many of today's technology cars in our service department are drivability problems. Today, when a car fails, the computer shuts it down. Most of the cars, many of the cars in our service departments are not drivable once there is an issue. You'll need a rental car. You'll need other additional coverages provided by the parts and labor program. So, Mr. Customer, most of the cars, many of the cars in my service contract are drivability problems. You know, I had a Cadillac Escalade, and it had a problem. And of course, Cadillac stood behind it. But right in the middle of traffic, it shut down. I didn't just need a rental car, I needed towing. The computer shut the car down. The car stopped. You know, you can't go driving another 15 miles and go limping into the service department. It stopped. I needed towing and I needed a rental car. And my parts and labor agreement, which at the time was a GMPP, General Motors Protection Plan. I buy service contracts on my own car. That's something I always want to tell the consumer. I personally buy service contracts, parts and labor programs on my own vehicles. I believe in it. You need it. So anyway, cars today are drivability problems. 15,000 high-tech component parts. You know, excuse me, Mr. Customer, liquid quartz crystal digital instrumentation display systems, most expensive replacement in our liquid quartz crystal computerized digital instrumentation display systems. Did you hear that word, Track? Liquid quartz crystal computerized digital instrumentation display systems. Your whole dash. Your dash is not repairable, it's replaceable. You don't even know where your laptop went when you replaced it. You don't know what happened to your old laptop. You didn't repair it, you replaced it. Guess what? Same thing with the dash in a vehicle. Liquid quartz crystal computerized digital instrumentation display systems are modular. Today's cars are not repairable, Mr. Customer. They're only replaceable and modular. We plug something in, we plug something out. Not repairable. Cars are not repairable. Well, Mr. Ziegler, I have a friend that's a mechanic. Actually, I do my own repairs. I've heard that objection before. I have a friend that's a mechanic. I do my own repairs. How many times have we heard that? Well, if your friend is a certified technician on this pre-owned vehicle, we'll pay your friend to do these. If your friend is a certified technician, we'll pay for the repair and let your friend do it. We don't pay for the parts and the labor and give you the same coverage we offer you at the same price, or they put you in a rental car. Your friend is a mechanic. Will they do all the things we'll do? I don't think so. Your friend's a mechanic. Great. He's certified. She's certified. Wonderful. Do they have a branch office in Orlando? Oh, you live in New York. Does your friend have a branch office in Orlando? No? Well, didn't you tell me you were taking the family to Disney World? Oh, if your car breaks down in Orlando, your friend's not going to tow it back to New York and fix it for you. We have nationwide coverage. Oh, you're a mechanic yourself. Wonderful. Hey, I am so glad you're here. We're doing an engine swap on a new Corvette. Would you help us out and show us how to do the engine swap? Oh, in other words, Mr. Customer, I was a little smart ass there, but you don't know technology today. You might be able to do a brake job or change some spark plugs or oil, but you really don't know how to repair today's technology. Today's cars, our technicians have to communicate with the engineers at the manufacturer through computerization and internet that built the car. You can't just have a screwdriver and a wrench and work on today's car, pal. You got to have diagnostics. You got to have all sorts of things. I know you do your own repairs, but you don't do a repair on this late model vehicle. I'm afraid not. The onboard computers, there's more than 1,000 times computerization we put Apollo 11 on the moon with. More than 1,000 times the computer memory that we put Apollo 11 on the moon with. Excuse me. Well, Mr. Ziegler, I pay cash for my cars. I'm a rich guy, woman. Oh, rich person. Oh, pay cash for your cars. Did you bump your head? No, don't say that. You pay cash for your cars? I'm gonna talk to the finance managers watching this video. I'm an affluent person myself. I have 7 digits to spare. I finance my cars. You're not convincing me, Mr. Customer, that you're a brilliant person by paying cash. Mr. Customer, what did your investments make last year? Did you net 10%, 8%? How much did you net on your investments last year? And believe me, affluent people, you got $60,000, $70,000 to pay for a car. You know how much your investments made. Mr. Customer, what did you do last year? Okay, so you netted 10%. That was a phenomenal, great year for you. Mr. Customer, you're going to take $60,000 out of production that is earning 10%. You've got money invested at 10%, and you're going to take it out of production. I can offer you a loan at 1.9. I even have loans at 0%. Why are you going to use your high yield invested money, take it out of production, when you can use our money 10 times cheaper than your money is earning? What are you thinking? Mr. Customer, what did your investments earn last year? Why would you take $60,000 or $70,000 out of production? Makes no sense to me. And by the way, if the consumer continues to say, I'm going to pay cash for my car. Well, Mr. Customer, would you mind if we buy that car back from you? I mean, how long do you think you're going to own the car? 3 years? Okay. What if I bought it back from you today, right now? What if I gave you, we have computer projections, we know exactly what that car is going to be worth 3 years from now. What if I gave you that money today and you didn't have to give it to me? What if I bought a car today? And I'll tell you what, The amount that I pay you today, if you don't agree that's a fair price 3 years from now, you can pay for the rest of the car and keep it. What do you think about that? I will make you a cash offer on your car today and agree to buy it and not charge you that amount. At the end of 3 years, you can make a decision, whether you want to continue to own the car or accept my offer to buy it that I paid for 3 years ago. Matter of fact, I'll put that on a lease contract in a one-pay lease payment, so you have that agreement in writing. I'll make it in writing. I'll put it on a one-pay lease contract where you will have a guarantee that I will pay you this much for your car, or you can pay it and keep it. And you can continue ownership. Fair enough? Notice my fair enough closing technique. So anyway, a one-pay lease is a really strong close sometimes on people that are just adamant about paying cash. Okay, gap protection, guaranteed asset. The customer says, Mr. Ziegler, my insurance company also sells gap insurance. I'm with Allstate. Allstate sells gap. Yes, they do. Mr. Customer, is it the same coverage, the same amount, the same terms of the coverage that I'm offering you? My credit union offers gap. Is it the same coverage I'm offering you? I have seen gap protection offered by credit unions and private companies that were capped at $5,000. I mean, they were capped at ridiculous amounts. The average gap claim, as I'm recording this, is $7,500, especially if you financed upside down into the next loan. So if a customer, first of all, investigate, is it the same coverage that I'm offering you? I'm offering you up to $15,000, whatever my gap covers. I know a lot of states you don't sell gap, but if you're selling gap, the gap policy I'm offering you, is it the same that they're offering you? Mr. Customer, you're going to buy it from Allstate Insurance. Does Allstate have your car insurance? They do. Okay. Why would you create a conflict of interest on your gap? What do you mean? Mr. Customer, what I mean is, if you had a really bad accident and you've got gap protection and total coverage with Allstate, I'm just using Allstate as an example, State Farm, I don't care, Geico, I don't care which one you're saying. But if you've got your gap and your primary car insurance with the same provider. Now, Mr. Customer, if you have a total wreck, which should be a total wreck, and you've got gap and total coverage with the same provider, they got to make a decision. Is it cheaper to call that car a total and just pay it off, or do they fix the car because the gap claim would be higher? So in other words, do they fix an unsafe car because they have a conflict of interest between how much the total would pay and how much the gap they'd have to pay? So that you created a conflict of interest. They're going to go with the cheapest way for them to resolve it. Is fixing an unsafe car cheaper than paying the gap claim? That's what they will do. Don't create a conflict of interest for your insurance provider. And by the way, get with your gap provider, whoever sells you your gap policies at your dealership. I want copies of claims with the customer's name whited out, and I want copies of checks if they write physical checks with the customer's name obscured. I'm going to create an evidence manual to show, Mr. Customer, our average gap claim is $7,500. Well, Mr. Ziegler, I live and work in a neighborhood my car is not going to be stolen. I live in a nice neighborhood. Well, it's amazing. I wrote this at least 10 years ago. I now live, me, Jim Ziegler, I personally live in a country club community, guarded and gated community. I live in one of the premier neighborhoods of Atlanta. Guarded, gated, and we have had a rash of car thefts recently inside the gates in my country club community where I live. I mean, a big rash of car thefts. We don't know how they're getting in, whether it's an inside job by people that are working, maintenance in here or something. We don't know how the people are even getting in to steal the cars. So what I'm telling you, when somebody says, I live and work in a nice neighborhood, sir, people don't steal cars in the hood. They steal cars where nice cars are found, in nice neighborhoods and nice business environments. So think about that a second. Now, theft deterrent window etch. Remember, this has been one of the really controversial products through the years. Truthfully, theft deterrent window etch has really taken a hard hit. Not because it's a bad product, it's a good product. It's taken a hard hit because people have been gouging on the price. Truth of the matter is, with theft deterrent window etch, professional thieves will not steal a car with etched parts. If they're going to part that car out, it's too difficult to dispose of cars that are etched. And there's sometimes an insurance discount value if you have etch on the car. That's not a guarantee you want to give a customer as an F&I manager, but sometimes there is an insurance discount. Well, Mr. Ziegler, I had that etch product on my last car. Never used it. Well, Mr. Customer, you had etch on your last car. Yes, I did. Was it stolen? No. Was it stolen? Of course not. Well, then it must have worked. Yeah. You had it on your last car and your car wasn't stolen. It must have worked. Excuse me. Etch is a pretty easy sale. Gap is an easy sale for me. I mean, I can't imagine if you're selling Gap that you couldn't sell the Gap. The consumer credit counseling interview. If I've got a customer with distressed credit, I'm going to get out there and get information to pass on to the lender. I do rehash and recap a lot of my deals with Credit Supervisor. Even if Dealer Tracker Route 1 turned it down, I'm still going to go back and make a phone call to the bank in many instances with the lender. Information to get the deal approved. I'm going to interview the customer to take the attitude off the customer. Mr. Customer, do I have permission to discuss your credit with you before I make a decision on the approval of your loan? Do I have your permission to discuss your credit with you before I make a decision on the approval of your loan? I'm tending to approve your loan from the dealership viewpoint, but I still have to run it by my associates at General Motors Financial. I still have to run it by my associates at Ally Financial, my associates at Santander. I still have to run it by my associates at the lender. Start referring to the people that you're financing with as your associates. I'm tending from the dealership's viewpoint to approve your loan. However, I'm not the final approval. I still have to review it, and I can be overruled by my associates at Chrysler Financial. I still have to review it with my associates at the bank. Let me get some information so I can make a better presentation of your situation. Interview the consumer. Before we sign off on this product, Mr. Customer, now you said you do not want the parts and labor agreement. I can understand that. Completely optional. Before we sign off on it and you agree to self-insure on everything that this would have covered, before you self-insure and we sign the waiver and release, is there anything I could explain to you? You see, Mr. Customer, I personally believe in the service contract, the parts and labor agreement. I've seen it do too many good things for too many people. If you were one of my personal relatives, I would never allow you to leave here without it. If you were one of my personal relatives, I would never allow you to leave here without a parts and labor agreement. If you give me any opportunity at all, I'll make an aggressive effort to sell it to you. Is there anything I could say to persuade you or convince you that's a good value before we sign off on it? I'm going to make an aggressive effort to sell it to you because if you were one of my personal relatives, I'd never allow you to leave here without it. I believe in it. You need it. Any opportunity, I'll make an aggressive effort to sell it to you. Mr. Customer, you need it. I believe in it. If you give me any opportunity, I'll make an aggressive effort to sell it to you. If you were one of my personal relatives, I would never allow you to leave here without it. Now, here's one of my best closes, one of my best. I was in a dealership in Ohio, and the F&I manager's name was Wally. And I had just been doing some F&I training. This is only about 5 years ago. I'm in the F&I office with Wally. He had a big enough office for me to be sitting behind him at another desk. Could you imagine? So anyway, I'm in Wally's office sitting behind him. Now, bear in mind, I'm the only guy in the dealership wearing a business suit and tie and a baseball hat and lots of jewelry. The customer suspects I might not work here. I might be something different. But I'm sitting behind him with my business suit, tied, and I'm acting like I'm not paying attention to his delivery. And Wally went through all this robotic stuff he'd been taught in another F&I school, little memorization, not conversation. He's doing all this little glib closes that didn't work. And the woman says, Mr. Wally, I told you I don't want any of that. I'm happy, just take the contract the way it is. I don't want any of those products. And I piped up to the lady. I said, Miss Jenkins, my name's Jim Ziegler. I'm a public relations consultant from Atlanta, Georgia, and I couldn't help it over here. I can agree that you probably don't need the environmental protection package. You garage your car. I can agree with that. But Mrs. Customer, let me ask you a question. Do you have $25 in your purse right now? Well, yes, I do. Miss Jenkins, let me ask you. 5 days from now, will you know exactly what you did with that? 3 days from now, will you know where that $25 went? You probably gave it to your grandkids to put in quarters in the video machines at Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza. You don't even know what you did with that money. $25 to you. Would you know 3 days from now how you spent that $25? No, not really. In other words, pretty insignificant money, $25. I mean, you carry it in your purse, you got it with you. You probably won't even know what you did with it. I mean, a couple of dollars here, a couple of dollars there. It's just not really important to you. No. Well, let me ask you, Mrs. Customer, Mrs. Jenkins, do you have $7,500 in your purse right now? No. Matter of fact, I bet you don't have $7,500 you could lay hands on readily right now, do you? And that's going to be many customers. If I know this person's a millionaire, I'm not going to hit them with this close. But if they're the average customer, I just watched that. They struggled getting up a down payment. I know that they struggled working the deal. They couldn't come up with the down payment. Do you have $7,500 fluid cash laying around? No, you don't. You don't have $7,500 laying around. You don't. If you had a gap claim right now, and our average gap claim is more than $7,500. If you had a gap claim right now, you would have to borrow money. It would be a financial disaster on the short term for you. It would certainly upset your life. It would be a catastrophic amount coming at you when you were least prepared to handle it. $7,500. If that came at you all at once, it would be a catastrophe. It would be a disaster. It would upset your life tremendously because you don't have $7,500 laying around. Same thing with an engine repair or any other thing that's covered by the products we're turning down. So in other words, our gap protection is much, much less than $25 a month. Money that is insignificant to you. Now listen to my word track here, folks. It's an insignificant amount, something you can readily handle. Think about that. It's a small, insignificant amount, as opposed to something coming at you, a catastrophic amount, and you're least able to handle. It's a small, known, here's my word track. It's a small, known, manageable amount, something you can handle, as opposed to a catastrophic amount coming at you when you can least handle it, when you're least prepared for it. And her husband said, well, I think we ought to get that. And they bought it. So in other words, do you have $25 in your pocket right now? Do you have $7,500? That would be a catastrophe, wouldn't it? Okay. So that's my close, on the gap or a service contract, by the way. Our engine repairs are over 5,000 minimum. Okay. When I'm delivering the contract, everybody's got their own pen. Now I'm going to do a full verbal disclosure. And I'm going to use the words, Mr. Customer, I have before me John Q. Jenkins and Martha P. Jenkins of 5161 Southwood Terrace, Norcross, Gwinnett County, Georgia, 30260. On this day, from Friendly Nissan, at this address, purchasing a new Nissan Maxima 6-cylinder bearing the 17-digit serial number for your personal use. A new 6-cylinder Nissan Maxima bearing this 17-digit serial number for your personal use. Notice I've checked off personal use. I did not check off agriculture. You ever caught farming in your Maxima? We take it back. It's a little joke I've said for years. I didn't check off agriculture. We catch you farming in this car. We're taking it back. And I always chuckle. I want the people to be light. I want them to have a good time. Now, Mrs. Customer, you've agreed to 60 payments of $621.18 at this interest rate. At this interest rate, I point to it. Starting on the 15th of October, which you indicated was a good time of the month for your first payment. You've agreed to 60 equal distinct monthly payments of $621.86 at this interest rate beginning on the 15th of October. Is that a good time of the month for your first payment? Great. Now, Mrs. Customer, as we discussed previously, that payment does include enrollment in the 7-year, 100,000-mile parts and labor program. As we discussed previously, get that into your contract disclosure, whether it's electronic contract or paper contract, doesn't matter. As we discussed previously, that payment includes enrollment in our 7-year, 100,000-mile parts and labor program, gap protection, and key replacement. I'm going to need your authorization in several places. Never ask for the customer's signature. I need your authorization, not your signature, your authorization in several places. I need you to authorize it here and here. So once again, presenting a contract, I need your authorization in several places. That's my 50 best F&I closes. As a matter of fact, there's probably 60 or 70 that I just presented to you. Everything is word tracking. Everything is personality. Everything is honest, ethical disclosure. You don't need to lie, cheat, sneak, deceive, or misrepresent self-finance. Matter of fact, I would never condone that. I never did that. I hope this really helped. Just a couple tips from the Alpha Dog.